Thank you for your interest in email security. My name is Sergio Pinto, and for the next 60 minutes, we are going to discuss the best solutions and techniques to improve your email security solution and how to prevent email-based attacks. First, let's present you how can you keep this discussion going after you watch this session. Please open your Cisco Live application, look for the session ID. You'll have the session ID on all the slides. The session ID for this one is BRKSEC-1029. You can install the WebEx application if you don't have it and join the discussion, and you are all set up. You can now keep going the discussion and have some serious email security related Q&A. So now let's discuss about what we are going to talk and discuss and cover within this 60-minute presentation. First, I'm going to start by introducing who am I. You'll get to know me a little bit better. What is my background, my interests. Also, why is email security so important to any organization, and why every single customer should care about having a robust and efficient email security solution. Also, what are the best practices that you should use, what components you should look for in an email security solution, and if you have a Cisco security email solution, what features you should enable to get the most out of it. We are going to cover the three main stages for email security as well. We are going to address them and explain what should be done in each phase to make sure that you maximize the detection and efficacy. And of course, in the end, a call to action and a summary of what are the next steps that you can take after this session. So first, let's present myself and you get to know me a little bit better. So my name is Sergio Pinto. I'm a security email technical marketing engineer. I'm married, father of a 15-year-old boy, as you can see on the pictures. I'm also a dog lover. This is Bella, our Boston Terrier that joined our family a couple of years ago. I've been in Cisco for more than 15 years. I'm going to do 16 years in August, and I had several roles. I've been in sales, I've been in engineering. I'm also an experienced speaker within Cisco. I've presented in previous Cisco Live events. I've been presenting in partner virtual trainings, internal virtual trainings, and other events. I'm a sports person. I'm a very active person. I do multiple sports. I do martial arts. I've always done martial arts my entire life. I do Krav Maga. It's an Israeli martial art. I like running, and I like to play paddle tennis. More recently, a few years ago, I discovered a passion for music, and I started to learn how to play. And I now play guitar, I play drums, and maybe a year ago, I started to learn to play piano. As you can see on the screen, we have a band within Cisco Portugal, where I'm based out of. And we play for colleagues, and we also play for external events. We are a rock cover band, and we have lots of fun playing these songs. Now, enough about me. Let's get back to email security. And if you are attending this session, you already understand or have at least some perception on how important email security is to any organization, regardless of their size or their line of work. Email is the number one communication vehicle for users. All organizations use email, every single one of them. This makes email very attractive to attackers to try to gain some advantage, to try to use email either to steal credentials or to be able to penetrate the organization's network and steal information, do damage, etc., whatever they want to do on their attack. Although in the previous years, we have seen the rise of, I would say, complementary messaging applications like WebEx Teams, WhatsApp, and others, email volume is still increasing. The number of email users grows every single year. The number of emails being sent daily grew every single year. Right now, people are sending almost 300 billion emails every day. And for you to understand how important email is on pretty much everyone's life, 58% look at their email, including myself, look at their email every single day as one of the first things they do in the morning to check if there is any new information, any urgent email to reply to. So as email is the number one vehicle, and as email is used by so many people and attackers are trying to take some advantage out of it, email, it's an old technology. It started many, many, many years ago. So there are some flaws there, and email is pretty simple to impersonate and to spoof. And I'm going to explain you exactly what I mean by these. So imagine the email has two main blocks: the envelope that the post office will use to route the mail to the right person, and the letter inside that envelope. On the envelope, I need to be somewhat real. I need to say, where is this mail coming from? Because if it does not get delivered, how do I deliver it back to the sender? And this email is sent to who? Who's the recipient? Because if the post office is routing the email, they need to know where to deliver it. Now, the letter inside the email is somewhat different. I can make up whatever I want. As you can see in this example, the envelope says the from is from Sergio, Portugal, but inside it says from Miguel in the USA. I can impersonate as much as I want inside this letter. And on the email side of things, it's not really different. So we have the envelope and we have the headers. The headers is what we are trying to explain as the letter here. The letter is what the user sees on their computer. The envelope is what the servers use to send the message from the sender to the recipient. So we need to make sure that we look to all these details, to the envelope side, to the letter side. We try to understand if there's anything malicious within these blocks of information, or if the message is legit and should go through to the final recipient. Impersonation is one of the main ways that attackers use to perpetuate their actions. This information is based out of the FBI report. The FBI launches a report called IC3 every single year about what are the latest attack vectors, the damage. And as you can see, the numbers have been increasing every single year. Right now, we have more than $3 billion in financial damage for phishing and business email compromised attacks. The number of victims have been increasing overall as well. In fact, almost 91% of the attacks start by email. It doesn't mean that the final goal for the attackers is to steal email-based information, but it started there. Why? Because it reaches the end user, and the end user is one of the weakest links in the chain. So now that we have discussed about why email is so important to all the organizations and the impact that it has and it has have in the organizations, let's discuss what are the best practices that we can use. Let's see what components should we have in our solution and what features should we enable to make sure that we maximize detection and we prevent malicious messages from reaching the end user's mailbox. But before moving forward, best practices is what we are discussing here. Best practices should be considered as guidelines. Each customer has its own environment, its own requirements, and we don't have a one-size-fits-all. So each solution should be fine-tuned to address each customer's requirement. Of course, we recommend each customer to understand their requirements first. This is the analysis phase. Understand what are you trying to do with your email security solution? What are the main requirements that you have? Then fine-tune according to those requirements. Apply these best practices to see if they match or not your requirements. And last, monitor. Because each customer environment is unique, the best practices will not produce the same results to every single customer. So monitor whatever changes you do. And after that, if you need to go back, fine-tune again and monitor again. So this is a never-ending process where you fine-tune, you monitor, you fine-tune again, and you monitor. Okay? But please understand that what we are going to discuss from this point onwards is best practices and guidelines only. So we have discussed this in the beginning. We are going to address the three main stages or phases of email protection. Securing your email environment can be done in several stages, from the moment the email is sent until the moment it gets received by the user. There are plenty of options and moments where we can interact with email, making sure it is legit. Of course, we will just cover the three that I consider the three main stages for any email security solution. These three email stages is going to be the connection, the connected, and the post delivery. The connection is when the sending mail server tries to connect to your organization security solution. Someone is trying to communicate and connect with your email security solution. The connected is when your email security solution already agreed that to connect to the sending mail server and agreed that that sending mail server is not malicious or does not have any malicious intentions. The post delivery is when we deliver the message to the end user. So the message is already at the end user's mailbox, and the end user may or may have not seen or interacted with the message. All these three protection phases requires different approaches and techniques to make sure that any malicious intention or attack is detected and stopped as early as possible. Going to the connection. This is one of the most important phases on email security, and is where we understand who's trying to communicate with us. And it's also the phase where we drop the most connection attempts. In fact, we dropped between 80 and 90% of the connections that we receive. Many of the connections out there on the internet are made by bot servers that are trying to understand if there is an open breach in any email security solution to try to send malicious messages. We do this by using reputation. So we look for domain reputation, IP reputation, geolocation, and message information, and based on those factors, we decide to block or not the connection. If we feel that the IP reputation of that server or if the domain reputation of that server is not good enough, and as you can see on the screen, there is a threshold, we can decide what to do. We can drop the connection, we can relay it, we can throttle it to make sure that it doesn't send too many emails at once. So there are several ways that we can have either to drop or to accept the message. We also do some connection checking. We understand if the server is who it says it is. We try if it is authorized to send messages on behalf of the domain that is trying to use. We try to understand if they are legit or not, and we use features like SPF, DKIM, and DMARC to make sure that the server is authorized to send messages on behalf of that domain. We also try to understand what's happening after the connected phase. If we accept and we look at reputation, we look to see if the server is authorized to send emails on behalf of this domain. If we agree to accept the connection, we go into this phase 2, which is the connected phase. And on the connected phase, we'll start looking to the message itself. We, again, already trust the server that is sending the message, but we are now looking into the message details. And within the message details, we can look for many things. And we can run several engines, several techniques to understand if the message is legit or not. Of course, we can look at if the message has any virus. We can look at the reputation of the file. We can do real-time analysis of the file if needed. We can understand if the message is trying to impersonate anyone. By this saying, we are providing business email compromise protection. We can run content filters to see what's inside the message, look for specific keywords. We try to understand if the URLs that are in there are malicious or not. We can filter based on specific keywords. Some customers are looking for specific keywords or letters or strings inside the email, and based on that, manipulate whatever happens to the email, who the email is sent to. So there are plenty of options, including converting words and PowerPoint files that sometimes have macros inside. We can open those emails and safe printing them, meaning transforming those documents into image-based PDFs that are not harmful to the end user. And then if required, the end user can request the original email to be sent to them as well. So we look for sender-based reputation. This service is based out of Talos. As I said, whenever we receive a message, we look for malicious indicators. We use the message information. As I explained in the beginning, we look for the headers. We look for the headers in the letter, the headers in the envelope, like the envelope from the display name and others. And we try to understand with Talos if we already have any information about that sender. So if you're having a Cisco security gateway solution, make sure that you enable the sending of additional attributes, because it's based on that information that we can provide the best score for that message information, and hopefully being able to detect better malicious senders and let the legit ones becoming delivered. We also have the capability of having policies based on senders and recipients and domains. So depending on each customer requirement, you may want to use different incoming mail policies depending on who the message is being addressed to. For example, you may have a group of users where you want to be a little bit more restrictive, let's say CXO users, where the policies for spam, for example, are a little bit higher, or you run secondary inspections of some of the information within the message. So there are several ways that you can use different policies to different set of users, including if you integrate your gateway solution with Cisco Security Awareness, which provides email-based attacks training and phishing simulations. You can understand who are the users that have failed those tests, and based on those scores, you can include them automatically in a policy that is somewhat more aggressive, that, for example, may not deliver the full URL to the user. The URL will become manipulated, masqueraded, sent to a different proxy, or whatever action the customer requires to. But the important is to understand that it's relevant to have different policies depending on the users and their profile inside your organization. We can also create content filters. I said a little bit earlier that we can inspect everything within the message, every word, every URL, every file. Content filters will allow you to not only detect what's inside the message, but also to manipulate some of that information. One of the most typical, and it's enabled by default within your gateway or available by default on your gateway, is the content filters for URL detection. There are some that are created already. You can see them on the screen that already identify URLs as being malicious, or to rewrite URLs that become suspicious. As I told you, whenever we get a URL on an email, we query Talos about the score for that URL. That URL can be malicious, can be suspicious, can be unknown. So based on that, we can decide what to do with the URL. We can also have dictionaries of what we call inappropriate words, or can be sexual and others. We have a predefined set of a word list that you can use there, or you can create your own. You can import other word lists to become dictionaries. And basically, if that word is found within the email body, the email can be quarantined, can be dropped, can be sent to someone else. So make sure that you enable these content filters, because they are the ones that will allow you to achieve the best efficacy possible. We also run file analysis, and we run file analysis based in two ways. One of them is, of course, look for the hash of the file and understand if that hash is known as malicious or not. Or we can run the file in real time and understand what the file is trying to do. If we already know if the file is malicious, we can drop it or send it to quarantine. If we need to run it in real time, we can send the file to quarantine and wait until that analysis is done. And based on the score and the result, we can decide to remove the message from quarantine and deliver it to the user, or simply drop the message. We include headers on the messages. So for messages that are unscannable, for example, messages that are encrypted with passwords that we are not able to access, we can include headers within those messages and take further actions if we need to. Also make sure that your email security solution, Cisco or not, ran an antivirus on the messages. If possible, run more than once, because different antivirus suppliers use different detection techniques, different databases. So make sure that you use more than one. If you use Cisco Security Gateway, Cisco Secure Email Gateway, make sure that you enable, if possible, more than one antivirus. Use this to identify, not to repair, because identify if a message is somewhat infected, we can take actions upon that message and not to attempt to repair it. And of course, notify users if we were not able to scan. Again, we may not be able to look into the file. If it's a zip file that is password protected, we have no way to know the password unless we have it on a word list that we can try. We may not be able to open that message. So it's very important to notify the user. And many times this is done either by changing the subject or prepending or appending something to the subject to alert the user that he should proceed with caution, because we were not able to verify if that attachment is legit and if it is infected or not. Make sure that you also enable anti-spam and Graymail. Our experience told us that we should set the anti-spam to scan messages, or at least to always scan the messages that are smaller than 1 megabyte. And mainly because spam messages are usually below this threshold, and spammers, because they send hundreds of thousands of emails, they never send messages that are really big. So according, again, to our experience, most of the spam messages are within the 500 to the 900 kilobytes size. So we can adjust our thresholds to be a little bit more efficient on detecting spam. If a spam message is found, we should drop it. We don't need to store it or deliver it. If by some reason we are not sure it's a spam message, but we have some suspicions, like we did for the antivirus and potentially unscannable and infected messages, make sure that you warn the user by prepending the subject and saying that you should proceed with caution, because to us, we are not 100% sure, but it looks like a suspected spam. If you're using Cisco Gateway solution, there are thresholds that you can adjust. You can use the default. They work great for the majority of the organizations. But again, as we have been discussing so far, you can fine-tune these thresholds to make sure that you achieve the highest efficacy possible. So if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, if you feel that you are getting too much spam into the user's mailbox, you can fine-tune the thresholds that you can see on the screen to make sure that less spam will be delivered to the user's mailbox. Okay, this is one of the cases where you need to fine-tune, monitor, fine-tune again if required, as many times as needed to make sure that you achieve the results that you are looking for. Same for Graymail. If possible, enable Graymail detection. And like we've done for spam, if we detect that a message is based out of Graymail, it can be marketing, social, or bulk, make sure you notify the users. The users can be proactively informed before they open the message that message is considered marketing or bulk. They can define filters, of course. You can also, as a policy, decide to deliver or not the message to the end user. But usually in Graymail, we deliver the message to the user, but we let them know that this message is somewhat related with marketing, bulk, or social. So Outbreak Filters provides information based on Talos, and it provides you the latest information about the attacks that we are seeing. Talos collects information from many sources: email, endpoints, routers, switches, DNS. And based on that information, if we see something that we considered malicious, we provide information to all of our security solutions. One of them is an email gateway. We provide that information based on threat levels. And based on the threat level that we see, we can decide to either drop the message, quarantine the message, or just inform the user that the message that they are receiving is potentially malicious or at least suspicious. One of the things that we can do is to modify all the URLs on that message. So if the message is suspicious, we can decide to rewrite the URLs there, and we can manipulate that information and again, rewrite the URL so that the user cannot click it, send it to a proxy if required. And as I said, there are several threat levels about these outbreak filters. We can understand that the message has a low score, and usually threats between 1 and 2, we consider it a low threat, so we decide only to manipulate the header, or we can put a banner, or we can change the subject to inform the user that the message may have some malicious content. But whenever we see a message with a threat level higher than 3, we may quarantine the message, and then we can decide if we want to drop it or not. Or we can simply drop the message. URL rewriting is something extremely important in any secure email solution, because mainly it provides you a different layer of protection. If the message is delivered to the user, we can change or remove the URL that the user is seeing, making it unclickable or sending it to a different proxy to make sure that we add these additional layer of protection. We also use something called CUA, Cloud URL Analysis. This is how Talos analyzes URLs. We use several sources of information and different techniques, and we even run the URL if it's unknown to us. So we run the URL to understand if the URL is legit or not, or to understand what the URL is trying to do. It may be trying to download a file directly to your computer or do something harmful. So by leveraging CUA or leveraging the capability of understanding almost in real time what the URL is trying to do, if it's unknown, provides a great detection capability, and to be able to stop this malicious URL to run freely within your organization. We also provide dictionaries. We have told you this. This is something really, really important within any security email solution, Cisco included. Make sure that you enable some of the dictionaries that come by default with your solution. The two main ones are around words that you don't want any message to have, including profanity or sexual content. These dictionaries can be adjusted to your language. There are plenty of sources of word lists out there on the internet that you can use and import into your Cisco Secure Gateway solution. You can also create a list of the forged email detection executives. This means that those high-impact personnel persons, we can get that information, study it on a dictionary, and whenever a message comes in, we try to understand if someone is trying to impersonate that user or not, and based on that, take actions. Of course, you can create as many dictionaries as you want and apply to as many policies as you want as well. Make sure that you also enable URL filtering. This is what allows us to get the URL information, understand the score for that URL, and also understand if some user click on it or not. Okay, so if by somehow we don't consider that URL malicious and we deliver the message, we want to understand if there were users that clicked that URL or not. Now, we have spoken about the gateway and some of the features that we can do, but there are moments where the attack that is being used is simply unknown. We haven't seen that attack yet. So it's important to run different detection techniques and try and understand if the email is malicious or not. So what we do with our solution, our security email solution, and every email security solution should have this, is we check every single message. Of course, we check for the URLs, we check for files, we check for the sender, the IP address, the server, the domain, we check for all of that. But there are other signals that may occur within a message that may indicate some malicious intention. So we scan the message for a variety of signals. Those signals are the ones that we covered so far, but also things like a sense of urgency, that this sender does not often communicate with this recipient. For example, there is a sense of urgent, there is a suspicious button, there is an impersonation of a brand because the image that it's there does not relate with the domain that is being used. So we check the message for these signals, we run them through a machine learning classifier, and we make a decision. A decision is not based on a single signal transforming a message into a malicious one, but we can understand if there are enough suspicious and malicious signals, we can decide to block and convict that message. Of course, that they may have some suspicious signals in there, like a rare domain sender. I can be receiving an email for the first time from someone that may be suspicious, but by itself does not make the message malicious. So we run these machine learning and AI detection engines to detect these signals, and based on that, we decide to block or to deliver the message to the end user. And why are these AI and machine learning power engines so important in email security? Because it allows your solution to be precise, so you can block whatever is malicious, regardless if it's phishing, if it's an impersonation, a business email compromise or not, but still deliver all the emails that are legit. It can evolve because regardless of the creativity of the attackers, we can understand what's going on within that message, what are the intentions of the message itself, and based off that, evolve with these new attacks showing up every day. And in the end, provide you information about why have we blocked or not that message. What were the signals that we have seen in the message that made us convict or not? So as an admin or as a customer, you can fully understand what have we done, what actions have we done to that message, and why have we decided to convict or not the message. Now, we have covered two of the three phases that I mentioned. We have covered the connecting. We just finished covering the connected, and we are now going to the last stage, which is post-delivery. Post-delivery means that the message has already been delivered to the user. The user already received the message and may or may not interacted with it. And there are two main ways to try to prevent the message or the user to see the message or interact with the message if it's malicious. Due to several reasons, we may deliver a message to an end user that it's not considered malicious at that moment in time. Maybe it's because it's still being analyzed. Maybe it's because we don't have enough information. But it's very important that if we see a message, or if we understand if a message is malicious, that we can go back in time and retrospectively convict that message if it's required. The second one is secure browsing. If by some reason we want to apply a more aggressive policy to a group of users, if we are unsure about the reputation of that URL, we can create what we call the secure browsing. We can manipulate the URL information or the URL itself and making it more safer for the user to click on it. For the retrospective analysis, we can provide retrospective analysis up to 72 hours. If the message becomes delivered, we can understand if the URL or if the file is malicious or not after being delivered. And up to 72 hours, we can go back in time if we have that feature enabled on our secure email solution. We can go back in time and go to the user's mailbox and remove the message out of there, making it safer for the user to use. Regarding URL manipulation or safe browsing, we can send the message, we can send the URL to go to a specific proxy, or we can make the URL unclickable, understandable, but unclickable, to make sure that the user has this extra layer of protection if we are not sure if the URL is malicious or not. As we now are at the final stage of this session, I want to make sure that I summarize what we have discussed here today, and also what are the next steps that you can take after this session. So we have discussed these three phases of protection. So make sure that whatever security solution you have, including Cisco, is configured and prepared to be able to protect you in the connection phase, in the connected, and on the delivered or post-delivery phase. Make sure that you fine-tune your solution according to best practices. Make sure that you understand that best practices may mean different things to different customers due to their requirements. Whatever may work for one customer may not be the best option for another one. Make sure that you use the latest detection, analysis, and prevention techniques available. Cisco provides trials to their security email solution. You can create a trial for Cisco Email Threat Defense or to the Cisco Secure Email Gateways in the links that you can see on the screen. As a wrap-up, if you are attending Cisco Live, make sure that you visit the Cisco Showcase and any related demos. If you want to schedule one-on-one meetings with the Meet engineers, colleagues, including myself, that are going to be live in Vegas, and we'll be able to meet you if required. Attend all the interactive education that we'll have in Cisco Live, including the capture the flags and the walking labs. And if you're willing to continue your education, you can visit the on-demand library available at www.ciscolive.com/on-demand. Thank you for attending this session. I hope that these 60 minutes with me were a good use of your time, and you become a little bit more comfortable about email security solution and what are the features that you should have on your email security solution. And if you're already running Cisco, what features you should enable and fine-tune to make sure that you have the latest detection, analysis, and prevention about malicious messages reaching the end user's mailbox. Thank you so much.